Okay, it's the end of 2022, and I suppose we better talk about the year. It's January 1st, 2023, the start of a new, fresh season, lots of changes. But let's just go over the past 12 months, shall we? Turns out my rear view mirror acts as a really good camera study, so remember that for next time. But we are sat in my trusty race car, and this is going to go out across both my YouTube channel and the Icon Road Tracker Race YouTube channel as one of the first videos on there. So whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, give it a like and a subscribe. I'll put the things up on the screen, so wherever I'm pointing to, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and it will help both those channels grow. But my job is changing at the end of this year, and I can't wait to, well, the job has changed. I've officially handed in my notice, and I can't wait to tell people just what that job is and what it entails, because I'm really excited about it. It came out of the blue, and then we'll probably, anyway, on with business. So 2022, how it started with me doing a lot of unique things with this. Actually, no, not a lot of unique things. Basically, I put a new gearbox in it. 2021 was horrid, absolutely horrid. I had an absolute shocker in TDC. There were a few positives that came out of it towards the end of the year in terms of like the overall pace of me in the car, and AJ as well. We had AJ in for the last 3 rounds. Nick did a great job in the first 2 rounds. He did put a couple of dents in the car on the right hand side at Silverstone, which I keep ripping him about, but I'll tell him it's his fault. But it was one of those things, 3 into 1 doesn't go at Cop's Corner. So, but yeah, it's you know, 2021 was an absolute shocker. So 2022, I just kind of went into it with the mindset of, fuck it, let's have some fun. So we did. And before I even got racing, things changed a little bit. Actually, things changed massively. So I'm not just going to talk about racing on this channel, but I want to talk about my overall year. And we went to the C1 24-hour race because, you know, I was with ClubRacingUK, and Nick and Steph got offered a drive with Team Morwin, so they took that opportunity as the club. And I needed, well, I wanted to do something. So I spoke to Robin Welch, who's actually a really old friend, and we kind of got in touch again. Like previously with them wanting to do work, and I know Nick and Steph, they raced a car at Brands with Amigo, and me and Robin just got talking again and rekindled an old friendship. And I asked him straight out, I said, well, if Nick and Steph are racing, put me on the broadcast team, because we're doing the podcasts over the past few years. It's something I've always wanted to do. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I know the BRSCC were a little bit reticent, because effectively they're putting a newbie straight into their 24-hour race, which is one of their, let's say, jewel in the crown of any motor race over a season. The 24-hour race is up there no matter what you're racing. It could be a billy cart, for heaven's sake, but you know, the C1 24 hours is a damn good event. It's the only 24-hour race at Silverstone, so you aren't just going to put Billy Blogs in there and just go, yeah, crack on with it, mate, have at it. So, yeah, I could see why everyone was a bit nervous. And I'll be honest, I was a bit nervous going into it. Like, we went in, we had these like teams briefings beforehand, and I learnt who I would be essentially working alongside. And when you've got names like Richard John Neal, Andy McEwen, Scott Woodwiss, you know, Paul Trustwell, Jack Oliver, those are some serious names in the commentary world. And then there's me. And I kind of went in there with my head down, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you know, and I kind of embarrassed myself a bit in particular to Richard John Neal, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm working with my idol, and he's like, no, we're colleagues. And I just have to take a minute to thank Richard for some of the really kind comments he said to me at Silverstone after I'd done. So basically I was given 5 segments, and after I'd done them, he basically pulled me to one side and said, look, there's something here for you, mate, just go for it, get yourself an agent, do whatever, and sort of chase that side of it. And I didn't know I had it in me, to be honest, and the feedback was very humbling. Keep my feet on the ground. Keep my feet on the ground. But yeah, C1 24 hours, big thumbs up. Nick and Steph got quite a good result as well. I think they were on for a podium if they didn't have a hole in the radiator. And Vinny and Nick Goff and the guys kept us fed and watered as well. So yeah, it was a pleasure to be around that race. But that just set off almost an explosion. It was a snowball, and it just turned into, well, first of all, Robin said, right, you're with me for the rest of the year. So effectively, after the 24-hour race, Robin got in contact with me and was like, I want you as a C1 pit lane commentator. That's it. That's it. So I was like, yes. And we kind of followed on, and we got to Anglesey, which is my next event, and that would be like the first time where it was one or two commentators up in the booth. So it was Scott Woodward and Richard John Neal, and we went to Anglesey, and I was exclusively down in the pit lane on the live stream again, carrying the camera. And there was a few times where I kind of misheard, and I made a couple of trip ups, but it was one of my first events. But again, everyone was really welcoming. I mean, the BRSCC all year have been absolutely fantastic, really warm, really kind. They're a great bunch of people. And you think of the BRSCC as like a massive organisation, but it's not. They're quite a slim, small group of people. But it's run so professionally, and you could see what they're kind of up against. And so anyways, so going from Anglesey and kind of learning the bits and bobs there, Leo Nolte from Motorsport Ireland, Mondello Park, sort of drags me out of the WRC Developments garage and goes, you're coming to work for me at Mondello Park. So that's looking like it's going to work well for 2023. I'm yet to sign anything on the dotted line yet or confirm anything, but Leo's really keen for me to go and do some work at Mondello Park. So yeah, I'll thrive at that sort of thing. But effectively, just worked my way through the year at the C1 Racing Club stuff, and just got a bit more confident and a bit, you know, I worked with Tom and Rob. I mean, Tom Brown as well. Big love to him and to Robin. They kind of helped stoke the fire that I kind of had. Like we just had all these crazy ideas, and we would fire off ideas to each other about what to do on the C1 socials and stuff like that. Even things like the whiteboard. You know me, I love my V8s. You know, Larco's whiteboard. Who watches that? Exactly. So you kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, that looks quite cool. That looks quite fun. So, and do a couple of, you know, I know we did it at Brands, Croft, because the circuits that we didn't have live streaming there, we did the circuit comms, and that was quite different as well, because it's okay on live stream because you're talking into a camera, but on circuit comms you're talking to a wider audience, so you have to describe what you see, and that was kind of cool with it as well. And again, working with some great commentators. I know Scott jumped up in the box as well, just to add a bit to it with the circuit commentators and just really kind of build it up. Yeah, got to kind of commentary wise, got to the end of the year alive and kicking. But well, you know, we've covered the 24 hours, so the 24 hours I did these segments, and one of them that really kicked off was the tyre one. Which anyway, did the tyre one, that all kicked off, and lots of people, I got a lot of very, very, very sweet messages afterwards, just sort of thanking me and just saying how pleased they were with the job I did, which I really appreciated. And again, you know, C1 Racing Club were just like, yep, you're with us. So I kind of, in the middle of all that, I decided to take this racing at Snetterton. We did a track day first, so this was the Icon supported track day that Paul sponsored me at Snetterton. It's 300 circuit. It's just one of those places. And I turned up there. Ed came up as well. We were with Colin Tester and the Super Tune guys. They had a number of their clients out, and Paul was actually out in the Fiesta, and that was a really good day. Even finished with Paul and myself out on track together. He was in the Super Tune Fiesta, I was in this, but it was one of those really muggy days because we were just coming into summer, and it was one of those really muggy days, and it got to a point where I started to feel a bit sick, so I had to pull off after like 10 laps of playing with Paul. Just get out of the car, drink some water. But yeah, it was getting used to this 5-speed box. So one of the major changes we did to the race car this year was, after the horrible 2021 season, we changed to an MTX 75 box, which is a 5-speed box and a Focus. We put a plated diff in it, which is completely different to the helical diff I had in the 6-speed box as well. And Jesus, that was like night and day. So with a helical diff, I was used to just turning into a corner, having understeer, and just kind of trying to get the car around the corner. Whereas with a plated diff, you turn the wheel, and it's like, well, you're coming with me whether you like it or not. It's a really, really weird feeling, and so that was kind of a bit to get used to. But anyway, this all builds up to my first racing round of the year, up to well, 1.5. We'll come to that later. But yeah, we get to Snetterton, and it's 3 races in arguably one of the hottest weekends of the year. I mean, you'll see from these short video clips, the grass is not green. And we were actually told in the briefings before the event, if you break down, do not park on the grass if you can, because they were worried about it catching fire. And they had that at a couple of the touring car meets. Was it a touring car meet? Anyway, they had a meeting there a couple of weeks before, and that had started to happen. So they were really sort of saying to us during the briefings, like, please don't park on the grass if you break down. So anyway, we go out for qualifying. My first time out on track with AJ in his estate as well, and he breaks my heart in qualifying, and the oil line goes on the turbo, which then seizes the turbo, and it goes bang. There's a bit of a fire. But I qualified okay. I was sort of mid-pack. Really pleased with the car. I pulled in and was like, yep, cool. Absolutely fine. And then about half an hour before race 1, I get in the car, and I literally just go, so tell you what. So I wiggled it side to side, but I was almost like hanging off of it, trying to move it forward and backwards. What had happened was the cable had sat down on the flange of the exhaust and melted itself solid. So I just had one complete gloopy bit of cable that wasn't moving for man nor beast. And that was a problem because it was half an hour and then they started calling us up. So henceforth becomes the panic, me running around like a blue arse fly. We got the old cable out and we had to bodge it with a Fiesta cable from Jamsport that Jamie Goen was like, look, here's a good cable from a set of knackered gear cables we had on one of our cars earlier, use that. And thanks to Jamie for that, it literally got us out. So we had one that was going straight round to the gearbox and one that kind of we had to wrap round the bodies and be a bit careful with. And they held the grid off as much as they could so we could get the repairs done. I got in, strapped up, and then they put me straight in the pit lane. And I started the race from pit lane. And I didn't think, to be honest, anything was going to come of it. But I started quite steadily. You kind of, you know, I'm kind of a bit wary in the first few laps. And the best bit was the camera that we're recording on now, I forgot to switch it on because we were in such a hurry. So I didn't get any footage from the inside of the car. But from the outside, there was a lot of coverage on the live stream, which was quite good because it turns out I was working my way quite nicely up through the field, and I had a bit of a tussle with Jason Stone, who's he's a good lad. I've raced with him a couple of times over the years, and got past the Hatfields and just making my way up and through nice and steady. Harry Hardy had a bit of a breakdown, but I don't think I could catch him anyway because he is a very quick lad in that Puma. And it was just working my way up and through, and got to a decent finish. And I actually celebrated getting across the line because I was like, it was almost like a release. Yeah, overall top 10, pair of 4th in classes, a 3rd in class, and came away from Snetterton really happy. I was over the moon, and yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, quite emotional actually because it may be a little trophy to some people, but that was a crescendo of a lot of hard work that's gone into this car. I mean, it's not exactly a standard Focus, and I think at some point we are going to do a video on everything that I've done to this car since new, and the story of how I've kind of taken it from what it was to what it is now, and why. And there's more to come this year actually, because we're planning something quite dramatic with an engine swap. But you could probably guess what it is. I've spoken to enough people about it, but yeah, the Z-Tech is only doing the first 3 rounds in 2023, but that's for another video. Anyway, so back to 2022. So we finished at Snet. I did a load more C1 gigs, and they were just superb. We did the likes of Brands, Croft, great summer days out. We're in the middle of that wonderful summer, just basking in sunshine. Finished the season started heading towards the end of the season really well, and got to Snetterton. And at that point, what a lot of people didn't know, I was quite vocal of it at the time. So I'd raced this, had a good season. The commentary had kind of taken over to a point where I was like, right, I'm with C1s for the rest of the year. I want to carry this on. I was still doing the podcast. Still, you know, I was having chats with Paul about starting the Icon content, which we're just releasing now. And one of those things, yeah, it's one of those things. So it's one of those, you get out of the shower one morning, you dry yourself off, and you feel that there's something isn't right. So you book a doctor's appointment. And in October, I'd already booked to do modified Fords at the last round of the season at the Formula Ford Festival. 3 races. They were probably going to split the grid, so we'd be doing 2 out of 3 races. Live stream, Formula Ford Festival, one of the biggest single-seater events in the world. And we were going to be racing there. Brilliant, right? I had a doctor's appointment, and he immediately referred me to hospital to check. And the doctor was just outright, he said, we need to check this for testicular cancer. So I had a lump on my right nut. And see, I've gone into some detail about this, but I haven't really talked about my headspace going through it. I'm not going to lie to you, my head was spinning. And I probably did some things I shouldn't have done. I mean, going to Brands probably wasn't the best idea. So we go to the hospital, and the doctor, you know, they do 101 tests, they do 101 blood tests, but it basically works out 2 weeks after my doctor's appointment, I go to the hospital, and I get diagnosed with testicular cancer, stage 1, as it turns out. That's never good. So I was due to have surgery on the Monday after the Modified Ford Series round at Brands, and you know, I was just like, fuck it, we'll just go racing on the weekend before, and it will be absolutely okay. But I'm not gonna lie to you, yeah, just as I've just said, should not have raced. It was silly, really silly and irresponsible. I had a frustrating qualifying. Like, we got the car down there. I'd made a major change to it as well, in the fact that I'd gone from 17-inch wheels down to 15s for the throttle response. Really keen to try them out. A big shout out to Graves Motorsport, that had given me a set of used, you know, I think they were like 1 session old Mini Cooper class championship slicks. I took a family friend of ours up to Thruxton, which is kind of our local, to sort of, he's looking to go into college and maybe do either aerospace or motorsport, and he wanted to sort of see what a motorsport paddock was like. And Carl and Dave and Sam and the guys at Graves Motorsport were really accommodating and welcomed him in, got him team kit, and we just had a really good day at Thruxton with the Mini Cooper Challenge, and I've had a couple of really good rounds at Thruxton this year with the Graves Motorsport boys driving the buggy and helping the team out. But yeah, for the, you know, all the Races Lounge boys there as well, they've just been absolutely superb and great supporters, Max Coates and such as well, and we're looking forward to doing some wonderful Icon videos for them as well. So yeah, watch this space. We've also got the Graves Motorsport 2022 season roundup video coming shortly. So I wanted to try this new setup. I've gone back to the standard ST170 brakes, which aren't a bad thing, and EBC through the, you know, I've been chatting to EBC for a while, and they sponsor the club, and they sorted us out with the RBX pad and disc setup for the standard ST170 brakes, and they were superb. But I went into that race, and I don't know whether I didn't know that I wasn't in the right mindset, but I just kept, like, in qualifying, I was just too hot-headed. I was just getting really frustrated. We went out in big blocks of cars in qualifying, and I kept getting blocked. 2 cars went off the circuit, so there were 2 yellow flags, so I couldn't overtake. So the cars that were slower on the corners, they would then take off on the straights. I would go to then try and pass them in the corners so I could do a decent lap time, and they'd hold me back because there's yellow flags. And so anyway, I came in after qualifying really frustrated, and I kind of went into race 1 like, come on, let's go, come on, I just want to go forward. That's all I'm doing. It was dry enough. I put the slicks on. I'm like, right, come on, let's go. And I thought I was warming them up, but if you look back at the onboard, it was shocking. I was barely touching them. Even one of my long-time supporters, Sam Pearce, said to me, he was like, you tit, you barely warmed up those tyres. And he kind of found out because, first of all, I misshifted going into the first start-finish line, lights go green, and I nearly do the money shift from hell. And then to top that all off, I go up into Druids, I turn in, Jason went off up ahead of me, and I followed, and I just rotated like a tit. So yeah, finished at the back. There were 2 cars in the wall, and stupidly I thought, oh, there's going to be a safety car, so I just spent a bit of time sort of doing the brakes, giving it a wiggle, and then I was like, oh crap, cars are out of the barriers, I've got to play catch up now. So that kind of cost me a bit of time. Again, you're not going to have a safety car until you see the board, so you drive to your race not thinking clearly. And I was doing flat 57s. I was in a bit of pain, which I didn't. Again, I probably should have admitted to that, but I was in pain before the race, and I was sat in the car with Nick, because Nick came up with Littlin and Dee, my lovely other half, and I said to both of them, oh, I'm feeling a bit of pain. And they both said to me, as soon as it gets too bad for you, Rob, you pull in. Or they even said, if you want to, and I was just stupid, gung-ho, and stuck to me going, no, I'll go out and race, I'll be okay. And I was lucky enough I didn't damage the car. Shouldn't have done Brands. But the good thing about it is on the Sunday I pulled out and I spoke to Scott Woodwiss, who very kindly offered me I did say, if need be for the other 2 modified fourth race, can I jump up in the commentary box with you? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we did a bit of commentary, which was just fantastic, and a great thing to do with Scott. He's a really top guy to do commentary with. I think because we have a lot of this, we both like the V8s, we love the Australian touring car racing that's gone on down there over the years. It's just been awesome. So anyway, we get to end of Brands. I have my operation, have appendage removed, and I had an orchidectomy, which is effectively removing the right nut. And I'm in the middle of recovery about a week later, and I get a message from the BRSCC, Luke Salvage. Again, really top guy down there. Clark Swanham does a lot of operational stuff in the background. And he just goes, what are you doing for Race of Remembrance at Anglesey? And I said, well, I was going to go up and just support. I was off work long term to recover. And I said, well, I said, I'm just going up to support Robin and the guys. And just give whatever hand I can get, obviously, without lifting anything. So I wasn't allowed to do anything. And Luke was just like, well, we're after commentators. And like pit lane commentators. So Alpha Live were doing it, and I got the chance. He said Paul Truswell and Scott Woodwiss are doing it, and you get the chance to do pit lane comms. It is and it was a voluntary thing, which is, it's a forces charity, so you don't, you don't take a fee or anything for that. And I wanted to experience this event firsthand, but unfortunately Scott couldn't make it, so it actually turned out that I did main and pit commentary when I could with Paul Truswell, and I did my first grid walk, which was astounding. I mean, from my point of view, sat there chatting to Callum Lockie, who is a multiple champion, BRDC member, British GT champion, raced at Le Mans, just Callum Lockie. But yeah, it's Race of Remembrance was a really good event. It was great to see. It was a great race to commentate on, and it was a fitting end to my commentary duties at the end of this year, and kind of a fitting end to my racing year. And although I only raced effectively 1.5 events, I'm really pleased with the way the focus has gone. We've got more plans for it. End of the year, and we had this crescendo with Race of Remembrance, and I had to make a few decisions, and one of them was I decided to leave ClubRacingUK. Because obviously I got this job offer, and it was a kind of clash of a conflict of interest, and Steph and Nick have been doing a superb job with it over the years, and it was only right just to let them carry on with it. They're trying to do a lot to market club racing, and it's still one of those sports that to me is grossly underappreciated by the higher ups. But they will continue to fight the fight, hopefully, and do it all for the right reasons. But the problem is, I've got 15 weekends booked next year where I'm commentating. I want to do a bit of racing as well in that, so that takes up to 20 weekends. And it also gets to a point where I've got another half, and you know, there are times where I want to take the missus out. I mean, having this cancer has obviously focuses the mind, and it just makes you think about certain things. And yeah, so I made the decision to step away from Club Racing UK, and I did my last ever podcast just before Christmas, and it was a bit emotional. And funnily enough, I did my last podcast on the day that I got the phone call to say that I'd officially got the all clear as well. So I wish Nick and Steph all the best, and hopefully they can carry on doing the good work with the ambassadors and the sponsorship program that they hope to be running, and the festival and everything that they had planned. So it's fingers crossed they can get the work done. But you know, just my personal thanks for 2022 to Club Racing UK, the partners and supporters there. EBC Brakes as well, they stepped in massively. Automotive for sorting out the plated diff for the gearbox when I did the MTX 75 conversion. Graves Motorsport, you guys have been absolutely phenomenal. Dave, Carl, just superb. Sam Pearce, lovely person. Paul Harvey, yeah, the icon man himself, Paul Harvey, who, you know, did the pre-season track day with me, and you know, and he really has been a massive supporter of my racing, and a really positive supporter of me overall this year, and just, yeah, superb. But yeah, that's my 2022 effectively, and we move on to even bigger and better things hopefully in 2023, or it could be a massive twist in the tail again, we'll see. But either way, that's it for now.